Hey, you. Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So this week's special video interview is with casting director extraordinaire, Fern Champion. Fern is someone that I admire her work from afar growing up. She casted some of my favorite movies of all time and gave the earliest roles to some famous actors that you love. And you're going to hear the name drops throughout the interview. You're looking at this, obviously you're on YouTube. This is a video interview. What am I thinking? Boom. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. She also did part 5 and part 6, Breaking and Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, Police Academy, the first 5. It was Fern. All those people that you saw put together, Fern was behind it all. And 2 of the Cheech and Chong movies in the 80s, Nice Dreams and Things Are Tough all over. Man, Fern talks about how she transitioned from fashion into casting and also how she just found people over the years, different places and avenues that she went to, scout for talent. Great chat. So many big names that you're going to hear stories about. I tried to keep my jaw together, but Fern was so unique. Before I start the interview, subscribe because there's so many amazing other interviews that we have coming up. And if you go back on our channel, you'll see it there. And also we do movie sequel reviews, which is a blast. So I'm going to shut my yapper. And here is legendary casting director, Fern Champion.
And we're all good.
You are
I hope.
Live.
Oh, I am so live.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I mean, just put the makeup on.
You look great.
Oh, and so do you.
I did no makeup.
Oh, I thought you had your lashes on. I'm so sorry.
I do have really long lashes. So that's good because my daughter will get those. So
the bottom line is all you guys have great lashes. That's what's really obnoxious. I mean, my son is constantly trying to pull his out because he said, oh my God, everybody wants my lashes. Yeah, like your mother.
So Fern, where did you grow up? Everywhere I looked online, I couldn't find out like where you grew up. Are you from?
You're looking under the wrong Fern because all over you will see.
Oh, really?
Yes. You can take the girl out of Brooklyn.
Oh,
but
nice.
You cannot take Brooklyn out of the girl.
I guessed that you were from New York.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a great growing up back east. I really did. My dad owned a big nightclub on the Upper East Side, and my mom was a fashion model, and I had nightlife, and I loved it. I really did. Very cool parents, and they adored each other.
Oh, what made you?
And they were good looking too.
Good looking too?
Yeah.
So what made you, like, how did you get to casting? What was the journey to get there?
Well, I started in fashion, boutique wise. And the way I compare it really is putting together an ensemble. Clothes, okay? You've got all the accessories and all that jazz. The same with putting together a film, a TV series. You're getting together an ensemble. No, that doesn't work. No, let me change that. So I think they're very similar in that respect. They're colorful, and sometimes a piece just doesn't work, and that's either in the fashion or on the screen. Right?
So the first thing you worked on was Saturday Night Fever?
Well, my former husband, when I was in fashion, I would go to the sets, and he was in casting and producing, and I loved it. But I would say, I think Saturday Night Fever was probably pretty much the beginning of my entity. And I came in really through the back room because there was another director on board, and he left the project, and then John came on, Badham, and he and I got along really well. And a lot of the casting was done, but I walked in, with Franny Drescher and Denny Dillon, and so my life was in Bay Ridge, hanging with Joe Cali and Barry Miller and Paul Pape, and just dancing. I mean, it was just. And my mom lived close by, and we would bring her White Castles. I mean, it was a trip. And of course, John was and is a spectacular personality and a dancer. It was awesome. It was really awesome, truly.
So you knew Fran Drescher beforehand just from being in New York?
No, well, not really. She was acting and I was doing supporting roles, and you come across that and stuff like that. But you just have those gold nuggets back east.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to out anybody now because they're all over the world.
Yeah.
But back then, a New York actor was pretty special.
Yeah, and everybody went there. Like I talked to William Sadler, and he was
Right.
and I've talked to other people from that era, like the late 70s, early 80s. And like everybody used to flock to Broadway, and then they would go to film. Now it's like a different route, it seems.
But something, I must say that during the horse and buggy days, as you're speaking about, there was only one union back east. There was the Screen Actors Guild. So even though we didn't have a Screen Extras Guild like they did here, we only had actors that wanted to be on a set and not only in class. So they would take these smaller roles, no, minor roles, no small roles, only small actors, right?
Yeah.
So they would take anything just to be working with Sidney Lumet and Alan Pakula and the New York guys, and so I can go on and on. So my actors back east were actors.
Yeah.
They weren't background. They made a scene work. Directors didn't have to be concerned about saying, Brian, that would be Dennehy. Can you pick up that line? Brian Dixon, they all did.
Yeah.
And then Broadway was good and bad. People that were very theatrical sometimes couldn't bring it down. And that's what they ran into out here. They were bigger than life.
Yeah.
So they needed to be taught a smaller scale.
So where'd you used to scout for talent? Like how long were you in New York? Like how soon did you leave New York and go out to Hollywood?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And, apartments in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And working with background casting. That was, the 2000 BC. Yeah, I started that. Yeah. No, but how long? A long time.
Yeah.
Listen, I was working with Sidney Lumet. Sidney, he's got me really started with network and just coming to the set and doing the small roles, and then going to Washington and doing all the President's Men small casting.
Wow.
So when you talk about Saturday Night Fever, I was a kid going to these massive sets and doing background work with actors. But who cared? So I got my teeth. Is that what they call it?
Cut your teeth, I think it is.
I cut my teeth with the likes of President's Men Saturday, and I still had the fashion going. But wow, listen. I learned about Watergate by being on the set. Yeah. I had no idea that it was just an apartment building to begin with. Are you kidding me? And then you watch Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman and Hal Holbrook. Are you kidding? As a kid, as a 20-year-old kid. So yes, but Sidney Lumet, I did The Wiz with him as well.
Wow.
And he didn't want me to leave New York. But I I met Mr. Stigwood, and on Saturday Night Fever, he asked me to come out and do this little small movie called Sergeant Pepper. Hello. Right? And I went, check, please. So I came to LA not hungry.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's great. That's one thing. I've only talked to one other casting director, and his credits the length of time doing it doesn't even compare to yours. But one thing that's the same is you've worked on like Sergeant Pepper's. I wonder why for casting directors there's not some kind of credit anywhere for that, because I couldn't find that on your IMDb. Because that's awesome.
Then I would look like I was 197 years old.
No, would just look like you worked
come
a lot.
On, let's be honest. No, you've got to relinquish the ball a little bit. I like my recent credits. I don't have to go digging down to say, oh, and I did. Oh my God, when I. So the truth is, if I'm going to do, well, for my sons, they just love the fact I did Tommy and Cheech's movies.
Yes.
By the time they grew up, they looked at me and I went, yeah, I was young. I needed the work. But I had the best time.
Yeah.
So my credits coming here, I didn't think to do anything outside of Saturday Night Fever, which brought me here, and, and there are articles that Sydney was responsible for me really learning and falling in love with a director that I don't know if there's anyone like him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a gem. I shouldn't say it like that. Of course, there's wonderful directors, and I've worked with them.
Yeah.
Also worked with some of them that are not so wonderful.
I bet.
Yeah, but something? I like my credits that still are current. I have no qualms about saying I was nominated for the Hatfields and McCoys.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, that was so. Something? I thank you, but it's cool. I got enough going on recently.
Yeah. So one thing I think it's always cool, even when you look at movies with like certain directors, but I think it's more like the casting director, there's people that you like that you knew would show up, do their job, the director wouldn't have to worry about. Because it's funny when you look at Police Academy, a lot of that cast, you've casted before. Like the ones that I noticed like right off the bat were like Gutenberg, who were the other ones? Winslow and Bruce Mahler. Well, Bruce Mahler was around the same year as Final Chapter. So I don't know what came first.
Something? I can't say that I had cast Winslow before.
I saw it on your IMDb. Maybe somebody else did for a movie, but it was a movie before Police Academy.
But what happened was I was casting Police Academy 1.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden outside, and I was on the lot at Paramount at that point, even though it was a Warner Brother movie. And very quickly, all of a sudden, I started hearing jungle noises outside of my window. Oh, true story. And I went outside to my sister. I said, do you hear a monkey? And, they sort of looked at me because I'm certifiable. I am the oldest living juvenile delinquent. But and she said, no, Fern, I don't hear a monkey. I don't know. I must have heard. Walk back inside. All of a sudden, I hear a tiger. All of a sudden, I hear a cannon. And I walk back out. I said, something's going outside. Something is happening outside. And she said, no, Fern, this fellow is waiting to meet you. I said, what's your name? He said, Michael Winslow. I said, what do you do? And as I turned to walk in the door, in back of me, he's got his sound effects. And I turned around, I said, it's you. And I said, that was you doing all those sound effects. And the rest is history. I called Paul Maslansky. I said, I don't know who he is, but we have to put him in the movie. And that's sort of how it started. Meeting David Spade. Mitzi Shore would call me.
Yeah.
Fern, you gotta come over to the store. There's this great guy. He's going on. Mitzi, it's 1 a.m. I don't care. His name is Bobcat. You gotta see him. Okay. Mitzi, Fern, you got to see this guy. I don't know. He's a cute little blonde guy. He's got the longest tongue I've ever seen. I said, oh, Mitzi, this is what his name is, David Spade. Oh, okay. And that's how, and Bud Freeman was the same way. Bud and Mitzi were my extensions.
Wow.
I lived at the store and the Improv. When I was with Tommy and Cheech, we were at the Groundlings. Look at we had that first group. It was, it was Paul Rubens, Pee-wee.
Yep.
It was Phil Hartman. It was Suzanne Kent. I mean, that was the original Groundling group. And Edie McClurg, they were our, ensemble for the 3 movies that we did together.
Yeah.
So I love my career.
Yeah.
I do.
I love Edie.
Yeah.
I'm helping actor Larry Hankin put together his memoirs, and him and Edie are so tight from before she was doing the Groundlings, when she was out in San Francisco doing improv. Her and Larry are still great friends today. So she every so often is in his video sketches that he does, his short films.
Wow. Yeah, it was quite an arena because, Tommy and Cheech didn't have a script.
I know.
They really didn't. And when you look at even the Police Academy, it was a blueprint. I think most scripts, comedy or, drama, are blueprints. Somehow when you find an actor, and I never have colored inside the box. It's never been my way. That wasn't the way I was brought up. So with Paul, with Maslansky, we would just take a look at the Bobcat. What do you do with Bobcat? Excuse me? You just create a role.
Yeah.
You just make that happen. What do you do with Spade? I don't know. You just make that happen. So Winslow, you just tell him whatever sound effect you can come up with, just go for it. Marion Ramsey was the other one.
The best.
Listen, I had a Bubba Smith. Are you kidding me? Bubba was my heart.
How did Bubba come about? Was he already in mind for that movie, or was it in the script?
No.
Yeah.
No, just a big guy.
Yeah.
Listen, I can look at both 2 sides of the coin. I had Bubba Smith, who you love.
Yeah.
And then Naked Gun, I had O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
So there's good and bad. But, that's what I mean. You color outside of the box.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
And Bubba was the nicest guy. Lance told me, I think they were I think it was the Miami one. It was his son's birthday. And Bubba, I don't know if he sang happy birthday for him, but he did all these nice things for the kid. And it was so cool. Lance is as they said, that was a summer camp. The formula for those movies was all right, we'll see you in, 8 months. And then next year, see you in 8 months. And it's really the greatest comedy franchise of all time. Really.
I think so. I'm going to you. But they've tried to redo it. They keep threatening that they will, but it's very funny. Paul never wanted it to be raunchy.
Yeah.
He wanted, whether or not it was slapstick humor, but he didn't want it to get, he just didn't want it to get dirty. And that was Maslansky. He stopped it each time New Line wanted to try to do it again or try it again. And so I think that as long as Maslansky's around, unless they come up with a pretty decent, fun script,
yeah,
I'm going to do it. Good. I got to tell you something. In the middle of the night, all of a sudden I'll see it and I'll go, oh, wow. I had a great time. I did. Listen, between Sharon Stone and Kim Cattrall, I had some hot-looking women, too.
Yeah.
Let's not forget.
I can't think of her name right now. And, God, the lady that's in all of them. She was one of my first
Leslie
crushes.
Easterbrook. Yeah. Leslie Easterbrook.
Yes.
Are you kidding? Are you Callie? Are you kidding? She's still a bud. G.W. Bailey, come on.
Yes.
These were cartoons. These were people doing a cartoon, and you loved them.
Him and Lance had like such a great chemistry. It was unbelievable how they worked
Yeah.
together.
All of them. You know, I lost a lot of my original players,
Yeah.
which is very bizarre, and not to sad. It really was, because they were all so full of life.
Yeah.
So I love you all. You make God laugh.
I must say, Fern, you have like the distinction of working on most of the time when movies get past even like the third or fourth, they usually become terrible. But you've worked on 6 entries in series. Like, you got to think about it. Like, Jason Lives is one of the great. Well, you worked on really two of the ones you worked on out of the 3 that you worked on are like 2 of the best Friday the 13th movies ever. How'd they convince you to do horror? Because you seem, not saying you wouldn't like horror, but you're very, I think you love comedy a lot more.
You know, you need to be challenged, and I say it to my actors also. Doing the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I never got bored with comedy, and I still don't get bored with comedy. And I love humor, especially in this past 15, 18 months.
Yeah.
You needed your humor badly. But you have to stay in the game, you know, and I needed to stay in the game. So they were throwing me every silly script. And I kept saying to Fern, which is me, yeah, you need to jump out. You need to go do something else. And really, they weren't offering me these big epic dramas. So I needed to just, okay, let's get into Friday the 13th. I'm in. And again, it's another ensemble of unknowns. Let's just create some, new fun. So it was challenging to do Pet Cemetery, the original. Are you kidding me? April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And I see them all being done again. And it's like, wow. So I'm happy with the ones that are. So when you say, how come I didn't pull back my East Coast credits?
Yeah.
I got plenty of you.
Oh,
I do.
I know.
No, I'm not being rude. I'm sorry.
No, you're not at all. So like for the people, like you said, like when you find like a bunch of unknowns, which is so cool, like Fade to Black, like Mickey Rourke, Buddy Buddy, which I watched the other night. Great movie. A young Ed Begley. So it's so cool looking at your IMDb, especially because you're responsible for bringing these people in, and just not even looking at the top, which those are people you're responsible for too, but finding those people that have the small roles that later on went on to do monster things. I think that's the most fascinating thing about casting.
I don't disagree. When we started doing The Mask, and originally, not many people know Robin Williams was the original person to do The Mask.
I didn't know that.
Well, why would you? Because I think it was, I'm going to say Dead Poets, that he too needed to jump out of the arena of insanity and go for the dramatic to show he is an actor. And so where do you go from there? I mean, how about the white guy in Living Color?
Yeah.
That was Jim. Because to this day, I don't know anybody that could do The Mask.
No.
2 in my lifetime, Robin and Jim. But then you go and try to find this lady. And Chuck Russell originally wanted, she was the guest girl, Nicole. She died a terrible death.
I know what you're talking about. The model.
The big blonde. Right. And
Anna
that's
Nicole
Chuck
Smith?
Russell. Anna Nicole Smith.
Okay.
And he was driven. He wanted her. And I would go, please shoot me. Somebody shoot me. Don't get me wrong. She was gorgeous. She was gorgeous at that point. But the good news is, after I did Naked Gun, they wanted to do a sequel. And I said, yeah, no. Naked Gun for me is one in, one out. and they offered her Naked Gun. I think it was 33 and a third.
Yeah.
And she took it. She took it. And she was no longer available. Praise the Lord. Enter Cameron Diaz after hundreds of women.
Wow.
I mean, Chuck was mortified. That was it. She was his Jessica Rabbit. But finding Cameron, the women adored her and the men idolized her.
Yep.
And she had done nothing. She was a model. She came in, Chuck said no to her. Then months later, he said, what happened to that girl? I said, she's in Europe, she's modeling. He said, yeah, there was something to her. And the rest, not to bore you with the rest of the details.
Wow.
But Cameron was the it.
Oh,
Cameron was my son's bar mitzvah date as the it girl. Oh,
what?
Yeah. Cameron, there's nobody better than Cameron.
Oh, that's
and then I tried to get her to do Mortal Kombat. Oh, that's the others. And then I go into that. Yeah. I go into Tekken, I go into Mortal Kombat. So you keep saying comedy, but I'm very eclectic.
Oh, I know. That's what I mean. I'm saying that was like, I think that if you look at your journey, like Friday the 13th was the
stupid crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Mortal Kombat. Wow. I can see her as Sonya Blade. Your kids must have loved you. It's so cool because they love you anyway, but Cheech and Chong, and then they're like, oh, Mortal Kombat. That must have been right. Your son is my age, right? 33, 34.
Right. Exactly. But they got me the movie because I got the interview after The Mask. They wanted to come in and it's a video game. It's called Mortal Kombat and come in. Now, I knew the name because my two sons, 32 and 33, you can get them away from the television. I don't have to tell you. You were in front of your own.
Yep.
And I said, all right, Spencer, Sean, I need to talk to you. Tell me about these characters. And they did. And I walked in for the interview and basically said to Larry Kazanoff, who produced, I said, do not screw up these characters, because your audience will know.
Yeah.
And I went through Katana and Shang Tsung and Sub-Zero. I was prepared. And he said, you play the games? I said, no, but I have a 7, 8, and an 8-year-old that do. Right? And he said, you really did your homework. And I said, that's why I'm saying, please have my sons come in and tell you what you shouldn't do. And they were on the set. Oh, they were.
What?
And I mean, yeah. That's and awesome. all the guys came to their birthday parties. Are you kidding? I ruled. I rocked.
And you already had a cool relationship with, again, another person. I'm sure when you went through the characters, or you're like, all right, I know who's playing Raiden, because Lambert, you casted him before.
Yes. And he's a sexy man. He really was. And nobody could do it like you. And, Remar did it in Annihilation.
Yeah.
And I love Remar. I loved him as Dex's father, but I didn't love him as much as Christophe Lambert. There was just something special to Mortal Kombat. It really was. It was quite, and Cary Tagawa. Who else could have been Shang Tsung?
I know.
Soul is mine. Come on. So, yeah. So I love what I do.
Oh man, that's so awesome. I just love that you can have that from the experience, like doing the other movies, like, oh, I knew it was perfect for this role. And then I'm not saying you don't interview other people or audition other people, but sometimes you probably look at a role or you just read it or you figure out and you're like, boom, I know who should be that,
Yes, you're absolutely right. There are the times that you say, nobody else, and you got to do that. But I'm not really good at recycling. I'm really not. And unless it's a total departure, in other words, I think all comics, not all, most all comedians are terrific, dramatic actors. If you look at Danny Aykroyd and you looked at Rob and, and Steve Martin, you just look at the greats, okay? Jim Carrey. you challenge them by putting them in an arena of drama. Look at Danny driving Miss Daisy, sneakers. I mean, there are Rob. I don't have to sell credits on these folks,
Yeah.
but these comedians, if I'm doing a dramatic piece, I'll go after. I'll ask Jim. Jim, this is a role for you. But to recycle them is not fun.
Yeah.
I need to be entertained too. I do. And doing it for wonderful years that I'm doing, I really like my actors too. This has been a tough year not seeing them in my office.
Yeah.
It really has. And I've been very fortunate that I've worked the entire pandemic for Lifetime doing wonderful movies for the two Jakes, urban movies,
Yeah.
and another arena, that I've, come into. I did the Seven Deadly Sins. I did Lust. But these are actors that I wasn't privy to. So for me to constantly just keep searching.
Yeah. And you're learning, you're trying something different. That's always good to do every so often. So you're right.
I think so. And meeting new people. It's fun. I don't love Zooming. I really don't. No, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. No, Zooming is fine. I don't like the self-tapes.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah, self-tapes. I can't say, stop. Wait, stop. Stop the camera. Don't do it. Don't do that. Just talk to me.
Yeah.
I have to wait until I got the self-tape. And then I go, oh, shoot. Nah. And then I say, could you have your actor call me? And I don't want to tell the agent. I want to get the actor on the phone because that's a little bit more of them being in my room.
Yeah. No, totally.
I miss my room. I do.
So Fern, you were talking about like the groundlings and like Mitzi and going to the store like in the 80s. Obviously this is a question pre-pandemic. Where were you able to find those type of people? Were you still going to the store, or now is it like looking for people that are like social media influencers or like YouTube?
I know that social networking is very huge. I do know that. And it's been very helpful at times. I did work for Awesomeness TV, and they were very big with the social influences. They're not for me.
Yeah.
I think what they do is, gosh, go get that money, go get that product, go branding, and this. That's just not in my arena.
Yeah.
For my actors. I'm sure there's a chosen few that can make the transfer into, but I really would prefer going over to Citizens Brigade, Second City,
Nice.
talking. Yeah, that's my beating it. Listen, my next door neighbor is a stand-up, and he's always at the Laugh Factory. So I'm going to the Laugh Factory. I'm going to go see Vinny Fastline, and he's going to show me new people. So I'm still in the game.
Nice.
Harry Basil runs it in the Laugh Factory in Vegas. So if I'll fly into Vegas if Harry says, come on up. I've worked with Harry. We did the Rodney Dangerfield movies together.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So I'm still, my heart is comedic.
Good. No, it's good that people still do that, because I agree with you. Like when it comes to stand-up comedians, they can obviously be funny, but I think because they're able to show that emotion on stage, and really, stand-up comedy is like just opening up to being real with an audience. So you're like being so vulnerable doing that. So if you could do that, you could be vulnerable when it comes to like a dramatic role.
I think so. Although there are the ones that do stand-up comedy that can't make that transfer either.
Oh, I agree.
They know their timing when they write their own material, and listen, doing Full House, the pilot. I did the pilot on Full House.
Oh, wow.
So between, and Dave Coulier, I mean, he's probably one of the best men around. And of course, Saget and Stamos. What a trio I had. But, those are the ones, well, John wasn't a stand-up, but between Saget and Coulier, those were the ones that could do, the transfer. Um, there are many that cannot, and that's tough, and you try, but
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't work.
And I saw Coulier. He was in one of your early casting too, in like the early 80s in like a no name kind of role. I always think, like I said before, I think that's so cool when you have these people that you saw something in enough to give them, that chance. So here's a question I have to ask about, because you worked for Canon for a number of
films.
Yes.
I wanted to learn how to break dance. That's the only reason I did it. No,
really?
No. Shrimp and Shabadoo? Are you kidding? Take this little Jewish kid from Brooklyn and put her on Venice and introduce her to Shrimp and Shabadoo?
Yeah.
I'm in. Listen, I did The Wiz. I can do Shrimp and Shabadoo in Venice. So why not? I mean, I still surrounded them with some, pretty decent actors, but they were great. They were great.
Yeah.
I think working with Menachem was not the easiest, but it was all right, and it took me into another arena. That's what I mean. It really, I need to be challenged,
Oh yeah.
I'm not really good at getting bored. Oh, you're laughing.
No, I know that I agree with that. Trying different things and open. And I think another distinction you have is you worked on, I think the only time in history, I don't know, I'm sure maybe with streaming now that might be different, but Breakin' and Breakin' 2 both came out in the same year.
That's right.
That's crazy.
I thank you. Yeah, but it was fun. It was open auditions, watching terrific young people. That's dancing. That's like they're trapeze artists. I mean, they would fly in the air, and this was the beginning. I mean, so I was on the ground floor watching this. Right now I'm watching rappers do what Shrimp and Shabadoo did in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I like that. I still am responsible for the longest running miniseries, 36 Hours of War and Remembrance.
Oh yeah.
That's the longest still to this day.
You have a lot of records. Because I interviewed Sam Furstenberg, director of Breakin' 2, and that's what I said to him. He said they did this movie because he had a relationship from Israel with yeah. So
with Golden Globus, right?
Yep. So he said they came up to him because he just did his first movie, Revenge of the Ninja. And they're like, "Hey, Breakin' did really good, so we're gonna do Breakin' 2, and we want you to do it." And he was like, "Okay."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, us Jews and those Israelis being part of the tribe, they hang with the family, they do. So God bless. They really, but it wasn't my most favorite, but I liked the actors. I did.
Was it just that it was on a shoestring budget and everything had to be quicker?
I think because I was outside of an office and I was watching young adults dance, but it wasn't dancing. Whatever it was just wild and spinning on the floor, like I'm saying.
Yeah. That's
what started all of this. So, God bless Michael Jackson and God bless some of these people, but Shrimp and Shabadoo, that was the street dance.
Yep.
That was street dancing. And it was never duplicated. It was raw. It was great. And so were they. Kids from the streets having a good time.
Yeah. And you think about it afterwards, I'm sure there were so many movies that try to replicate that, maybe. But really, if you think about it, it's like when it comes to that genre, it's like Breakin' 2. And then years later, they did the the Channing Tatum movie, the dancing in the whatever. I don't know, Step Up. Those are like the only dancing movies like ever that people really know, but it's more Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. How can you beat that name?
Right. Absolutely. Dance movies, you look at it, there's like a handful.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Even well, listen, Dirty Dancing will never get old.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. But it's a handful. It is a handful.
That and spoof movies, because I think they're so hard to do. There was a lot of spoof movies, but there's only like a handful you really remember that stick out, like The Naked Gun, which you were part of, the Mel Brooks movies, and
Right.
really there's not that
You have to
many.
be pretty brilliant. The Zucker brothers, the Mel Brooks of the world, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams. It's not a plethora
Yeah.
of that soul, that type of person. These are just, it's Mork. It's just, there's really not. So when you find it, you capitalize on it. But I must tell you, the one, and I think someone once told me that the biggest moneymakers still are, I'm going to use the term mob movies, mafia movies. Listen, there's nothing better than The Godfather.
Yeah.
Nothing. And, and now they're making a limited series of the making of The Godfather.
Oh, wow.
And Al Ruddy, who's a very dear friend of mine, produced. And so you're going to have Bob Evans and you're going to have Francis, and you're going to have these people. And it's quite a story. But that's something to be said. I love mob movies. My dad was part of that group, and I love going down to Little Italy. Oh, come on. Carmine's, give me a break. This was the best. These are the most colorful people ever.
Yeah.
Clowns in a circus and mafia people. These are the best people. You want to stay on their good side.
Yeah, no, that is true. Looking at like all the movies, and I was trying to think of like casting like difficulties, and it was great. That Cameron Diaz story was really cool. But like when you're casting for like the Oscar Pistorius story, how hard is it when you know what your canvas looks like to like when you're auditioning people? Are you going like yourself, like this has got to be exactly looking like him? Like, how does that? Yeah.
Yes. Plus, he had a bad leg, as we know, bad legs. So we had to get somebody that we did try to have people that were, but they weren't strong enough for the role.
Yeah.
So whoever we got was going to have to train very seriously to not make the audience feel offended. So that was a difficult, should we go with, prosthetics? Should we go? And we tried, there are auditions that we did try. So, I could never get hurt by that because we did.
Yeah.
I took people were calling and I was seeing and self-taping. But again, even his girlfriend, she was a top model. She was a magnificent model. So finding her. So that duo, that was hard. That was really, really hard. But, another challenge.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Why not? When I'm asked to do, again, Hatfields, I said to Leslie Greif, the producer, I said, are you out of your mind? Have you seen my credits? I'm known for Cheech and Chong and Police Academy. He said, Fern, you did the biggest miniseries called War and Remembrance. Those were Germans. So if you can't cast a cowboy, I don't know what you can do. I said, I'm in. He said, you want to talk yourself out of a movie? Fine. But then, and I say it a lot, if you have a tremendous script and then you bring on a man by the name of Kevin Costner, you don't even have to call out. And if you look at Kevin, you just say, build it and they will come.
Yes.
And that's what happened. I mean, I have to tell you something. Working with Kevin, and it was just Kevin Reynolds who directed it as well, who I adore. But sitting in that room the actors, I honestly, and again, finding actors that didn't act before. And it was just, and I said to Leslie, I said, if we want the women to tune in to a bunch of unattractive people of the Hatfields and McCoys, I said, we have to have some handsome men, rough them up, but make them cowboys. And he said, I forgot you were on staff with Aaron Spelling. Yes, Fern, we can have some handsome men. but it's true. And we had quite an audience with that.
Yeah.
It was pretty spectacular.
And Kevin, just him as, obviously I've never met him, but just from hearing stories about him and New Jersey's own, when Whitney Houston passed away, I never knew, like, he spoke at her funeral, and his story that he told, I was just like, wow, he was like so set on her for The Bodyguard. I think she had to go on tour or record an album and she couldn't get out of it. So he was like, it's okay, we'll just wait. So they like put this production that was already in, waited just to have her. And I was like, wow. And that connection, all those years later, he's in New Jersey 20 something years later, you know, speaking at her funeral.
Absolutely. Kevin is a politician. Kevin is one of the best politicians. But when he wants someone that, you know, you can't get, you reach that level. He's worked hard to get there.
Yeah.
But when you're there, you pay homage. And if he says he wants to wait, you'll wait.
You'll wait.
You'll wait. I mean, really, you know, there aren't many. Brad Pitt, you'll wait. George Clooney, you wait. You know, but again, Leo, yeah. You don't even have to say his last name. It's like Cher. Leo, Brad, George. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But there aren't a lot. There aren't a lot. So working with Kevin was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I loved my cast.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I did.
And so a few more questions because I don't want to keep you too long. How long of the process are you involved in? Like you cast everybody, they're in their roles. Are you on set for a while or?
Okay. Again, it all varies.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think if it was a set, well, 4 weeks on and then you do, it's punching a clock. You know, it's punching a time card. So the glamour and the excitement to me is one day is never the same as the next. So to be honest, I never know. Of course, you'll have a contract, and it's 6 weeks and that's it. And there's that. But then, well, it's a little longer than that. And, you know, now that the casting people have become union, you know, it's a little different, but I'm in.
Yeah.
What do you need? And the good news is I have not had many people released, also known as fired. So I'll go to a set just, again, if it's buddy and you want to see Billy Wilder and IAL Diamond and Lemon and Mathau, yeah, Fern in. I'm in. I'm going, right? You know, there are those sets.
Of course.
Saturday Night Fever, John's dancing, Fern in. Hi, John, I'm here, you know. So come on, Barry Miller's jumping off the Verrazano. Fern's in, it's 2 a.m. We're at White Castle, I'm in. So yeah, and Cameron, you want to be dancing? I got your back, Cameron, because you're a new person.
Yeah.
Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen putting whoopee cushions on all the new actors. I'm in. That's what Leslie would do.
That's great.
Whoever started that day, he put a whoopee cushion on their director's chair. So how could I not be in?
Yeah.
These are icons. You know, people say to me, oh my God, Fern, you're a legend. No, well, okay. You know, just don't call me, what do they call me? A veteran. I go, don't ever say that word. That's a bit, no. You got to lose that. No, are you kidding? Look at my resumes. You'll know I'll go to Cheech and Chong when they do a table read
Yeah.
and they give a studio a BS script because they were all improv and they had to smoke a really good bowl before you get on that. They had the best smoke, clean smoke. Oh, they clean food too. Their food in the 90s, it was clean.
Wow.
When I say clean, they were vegans at that point. They had no bad food, no bad smoke.
Yeah.
But when they would come to a table read, the suits, it was a BS script. And these guys and women with ties, and we all knew it was a BS script,
Wow.
but it was just like, oh yeah, it's good, Tommy. Yeah, good, Chief. And it was we'd go, nice. And then Tommy would say, I'll be in my trailer. Everybody meet. Let's go over and let's just get high and go shoot a movie.
Wow.
And they had, and Tommy and Cheech, there was nobody better. There was nobody better.
No, agreed.
I mean,
That's
talk
wild.
about fun.
Yeah, that's wild. They wrote a dummy script just for them to read, and then that's great.
Of course. Not only that, people would say, I don't see the movies funny. I said, do you get high? Do you smoke? And they go, well, no. And I go, that's your point. That's my point. It's not for you. My sons, when they became of the age and they're in college and my name's on a one sheet and all their friends would be going, your mom? And I went, I'm proud of it too.
Heck yeah.
I am.
Like you said, they're funny, but I think what's great about their movies, there's so many, like me and my wife love all the Cheech and Chong movies, but the other people are funny in it. So the writing, like the girl doing in Up in Smoke, when the girl does the line of Clorox and just her reaction to it. And it doesn't have to be them. There's some comedy people, I'm not going to name any names, but you'll watch their movie and they have all the best jokes. Everything's great for them. And then these other actors have these crap lines that seem like they're just like written down in a second, they care about everyone.
But not only that, Tommy and Cheech, we'd sit at the Groundlings. And again, this was the first group up of the Groundlings ever. Now there's, new people and new companies, but we had the first company. And they really, they brought Pee-wee Paul to life.
Yeah.
We would go to the midnight show, but that was the Pee-wee Herman show. Nobody knew who that little boy was, so to speak, but they needed the improv actors because they had no scripts. So they needed people that they could play with. So that's why they knew their talent had to be good.
Yeah.
Right?
The improv is the best. Lance Kinsey, he directed a movie like 6 years ago, and he had a shoestring budget because he funded it himself, and he just got all the people from the Groundlings and from UCB so they can get it done quick. They shot it in like 13 days, and he was buddies with John Goodman from when they used to do dinner theater in like the late 70s, 80s, like up and down like places in Ohio. So he had him have like a small role in it. But no, that's what it's about. Like just think it's so fascinating.
There's different kinds of humor. There's different kinds of drama.
Yeah.
There really is. So I think the casting person has probably I think, this is me bullshitting, has one of the most difficult jobs.
Agreed.
Totally. And there are many times that we make mistakes because we're blown over by the read in the room, and then it doesn't continue. So we're only human. Although actors look like humans, I'm not quite sure.
But I just think about just looking at like your movies and the people, like just off the top of my head, I could probably name 20 people that it was like you, like even ones that only had, not like they didn't have long careers, but that they were like I would say like Judy Aronson for like 3, 4, 5 years. She was in like so many movies, like big movies, big comedies. Gutenberg, like so many
Good.
people.
Goot and I are still pretty close. We really are. I'm still close with all the police academies.
That's great.
And, and GW is a bud. He's a wonderful, wonderful, insane Southern kind of man. I mean, he's the best. He's the best. It's something about comedians because they hide behind that. When we did Sergeant Pepper, and again, all we had were the songs. So now go fit the songs with an actor. So, I mean, who's going to be Sergeant Pepper? Who else? It's got to be George Burns. Who else could be Sergeant Pepper? He was God.
Yeah.
Of course he can be Sergeant. Who could be crazy Dr. Maxwell? Now, there was a new comic that was on Johnny Carson. And he had, and you're trying to think who played. I don't know if you ever saw
I'm trying
movie.
to think. No, because I always confuse the movies for some reason. Because there was the one in the mid 70s that like Eddie Deason was in, like a few other up and coming actors.
No,
that
was Surf 2. I did that terrible Surf 2 movie. But Sergeant, I've had some fun movies. But Sergeant Pepper, who's going to play? Who's going to play crazy Dr. Maxwell, right? Bang, bang, Mac. So I'm watching Johnny Carson one night, and he's got a new comic on, and this guy has an arrow in his head. Enter Steve Martin.
Oh my God, that's great.
And Steven became my crazy Dr. Maxwell. And there was nobody better. So, I found that one too.
Yeah.
I didn't. Other people did. I just happened to put him in front of the cameras. So, I like my comedy, and I like my cowboys, and I like my movies. I do.
I just love the stories about, like, I think in like being a casting director, the stories of how people came to be. Sure, writers can have their kind of thing, like how you came up with the script, but like the fact that you're watching Johnny Carson, you're like, boom,
bam. Well, certifiable. I mean, he was wild. He was nuts, in a good way, But Rich Jenny, who was in the Mask, who's passed.
Yeah.
Rich was not a happy man. He really wasn't. Comics, many of them, I don't want to say unhappy, but some are. They hide behind that mask. Sometimes it's good to hide behind humor.
Yeah.
It keeps you going. And like sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, like you said, in the last 15, 18 months, that's all we had was humor. Yeah. So the last question, Fern, this has been amazing. What is it? Obviously, it's the same thing. You're casting TV and movies, but is there like a difference between the two, like an approach?
I think it's changed now. But you still have people at a network. We always tease too many chefs, not enough guests. There are many times so many people are making a decision. And again, what we were saying, each project is different.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's film or television. If you have a television show with a big producer, your network is not going to get involved to a fault. They're not going to have final say on casting, but it all depends.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're working on a shoestring budget and the studio's giving you money, you got no say.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so it's all relative on who's conducting the orchestra. Who's that director? Who did you bring into the project? Is it a well-known name? Then you're okay. You're protected by, I use the term suits because it's a term that we've all grown up with.
Oh, yeah.
So whether or not it's network or studio, it depends on the project. No,
sometimes it's funny.
The bigger they are.
Yeah. Just looking at your like TV, just like throw the movies out. It's like Mama's Family, Friday the 13th, the series, which was like just like the Freddy's, the same, not the same exact concept, but like Freddy's Nightmares. All these people were thinking they were tuning in the beginning, like, oh, this is Friday the 13th, but it was more like a Twilight Zone-ish, different stories every week.
Absolutely. It's everything is different. That's the excitement to me. Things have to be different. Mickey Rourke, you brought up Mickey's name before. We could not make a deal. They were having difficulty making a deal with Bruce to play the lead. And I started reading people. And Mickey Rourke walked into the room. He was Robert De Niro to me. He was De Niro, not Mickey today. And I've just worked with Mickey again last year. Oof, that was odd. But, and again, I speak to Mickey from time to time at 2 a.m. All of a sudden I'll get a call. But anyway, so Mickey came in to read. And the director at the time, this is the story, was eating a sandwich. And Mickey stopped reading. And Mickey looked at him, and I'll 86 the. Oh, well, I won't, because you're not going to read. He said, "You're either going to put your fucking sandwich down, or I leave." And I sort of looked at this unknown. I went, "I love you. How dare you be eating, you pig? Listen to my act." Yeah. Anyway, cut to, they weren't going to make Mickey the lead until they made the deal. And I said, "You can't let this man go." So Mickey became his best friend. Oh. But Mickey would have been insane in the lead. He really would have. Yeah, he's pretty great, Mickey. He's gone to a whole other ozone. I'm not sure. But, listen, I never said that I play safe.
Yeah, no, you have to think outside. Like when I interviewed Eric Robertson's wife, we talked about Pope of Greenwich Village, and he said they still have like a connection. And then I was reading somewhere Mickey was like, I really hope, because I guess they have such a tight thing from that movie. Because even Mickey, when he was getting interviewed after like The Wrestler, like that was like his resurgence, he was like talking about Eric. During this interview, he was like, I hope Eric has a movie like this so he can have the spotlight like that. Because you gotta think that movie, it just like changed everything. And you even look at him, he looks totally different. It's totally
And something, I always use the term sexy ugly. He was a sexy ugly guy. He was menacing. He was charismatic. 9.5 weeks. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, right? 9.5 weeks. Right. That was his movie with Kim. Mickey's.
Is it 9.5? I think so. Yeah, 9.5 weeks. Yep.
9.5. But handsome, wild, insane. But then he started, whatever.
Yeah.
Listen, women do it to their faces. So, you can't put him down. He just looks like ridiculous.
No, he's unique. He's memorable. Do you have any other ones like that people like came in and did audition? Because I love those stories. Danny DeVito, Jersey guy, when he told the story he was on, I think, Mark Maron, and his story about his audition for Taxi is the best. When he walked in and said, "Who wrote this shit?" and he threw the script and walked out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And then I think that whoever was in there, I don't know if he said the casting director, producer, director, like ran down the hallway. They're like, "Go get that guy."
Immediately, if not sooner. Yeah. Absolutely. Again, all the police academies, and I've given you a couple of the tips. I really have. Matt Barr walking. Well, I don't know how funny these are, but Matt Barr, who played Kevin's son, he brought in for his pre-read a picture at 8 years old when he met Kevin. And he said, "I want to play his son." And I said, "What, did you Photoshop this?" And he said, "No." He said, "But I'm going to play his son in this." And I got to tell you something. I took that as, okay, I got this. It's the casting gods. And we brought Matt all the way through. Bam, Matt was. Yeah, that's like a good story.
That's awesome.
That really, really is a good story. But all of my actors, I got to tell you, working with Bill Paxton, there was nobody better. You know,
The best.
I go on but the ladies that I worked with, it's just phenomenal. I've had some good times. I really have. Cameron being my son's bar mitzvah date, that's the best story. And everybody thought she was a lookalike. That was hysterical.
That's
well,
great.
sure. And we did it up at Universal, and it was the theme, and it was huge. It was big. It was great. Chris Christopherson doing Texas Rising. And I flew first class with Chris Christoph. There's no better. We got off the plane and the fellow went to take his guitar case, and he just looked at the guy like, touch it and I'll kill you. Right? And he said, I got my own. And then he sang me and Bobby McGee. I love it. Right. All that, work. Oh, here's a funny story. I did Tony Braxton's story. Tony's the producer. Leah Daniels and myself. Leah used to be my associate. Leah Daniels Butler is one of my BFFs.
Wow.
Leah, So Tony and Leah, I used to say to them, so I'm like the middle of this Oreo cookie. I got this. I'm good. So we're in the middle of readings, and Leah says to me, and I have to go to the ladies' room, Fern. Do me a favor. Read with the next actor. I said, you're not going to do this to the white kid, are you? I said, I'm going to be reading this. And she said, Fern, stop it. You've been reading for years. You'll be great. Leah walks out. So Tony's in the room. I've got this black guy on my left. I've got Craig Baumgarten, who manages Tony, white Jew on the other side. I got me and this black guy next to me. So the girl comes in. I don't even introduce them because Tony said, I don't want to get them nervous. Don't introduce me and stuff. We sit down and we start to read. Well, all of a sudden, the dude next to me, I feel his shoulders are going up and down and up and down. I said, excuse me. I said, are you laughing? He said, your read. I said, it's really shit, right? I said, could you do me a favor? And I said to the actress, I said, could you just go outside for a minute? I'm so sorry. So she walked out, right? And I looked at the dude and I said, I know it. I told Leah I'm really bad, but I don't think we've met. Who are you? He said, I'm Babyface. And Tony and Greg broke up. And I went, how stupid do you think I look? He said, I thought you just knew me by my face. I said, God. And Leah walked in. She goes, how do you not know it's him? Baby. So I think that's a funny story, too.
That's great. No, I'm sure you have a ton of that. That's great.
But I have good times with my actors. I do. I really, truly do.
Yeah. You have to love them, because you have to know like the ins and outs. I think that's the most fascinating thing because you have to know. And I think that's so cool. I was going to ask that question before, but you answered it a little while back that you never had an actor released from a film. And that is a testament to you not even only being great at what you do, but choosing the right people to associate yourself with.
There was one, and it was the lead on Full House. Yeah, it's written up about, and the network got written. We brought Bob in. Look at that face.
Is it somebody I would know?
Yeah, look him up.
I will.
And if you can't find it, yeah.
Well, I'm sure. Wait, was it shot? Was the pilot shot with him or no?
I think they might have shot, did they reshoot anything? Was he fired? I think they might have shot.
I have to look for it because I just saw the other day the Always Sunny in Philadelphia pilot that I never knew about without, I can't think of her name, the blonde girl, Mac's wife in real life, but I never knew that there was another
person.
Yeah.
Listen, when you said Mama's Family, at the ripe old age of, I think, 9 or 10, I hired this young actor and he did a table read. And I always tell my actors, perform at a table read. Otherwise you can get fired. If your network looks at you and they think you're flat, and they fired this little boy that for many years, since we're still pretty friendly, Kevin Connolly says to me, "You fired me at 9 years old."
That's great.
He said, "You fired me." I mean, we'll be at the bar at tennis. He said, "Do you know who she is? She fired me. I was 9 years old." Kevin.
I think he did fine. I think it worked out for him.
He just did fine, right? Absolutely. So that's what that's all about.
Fern, you are awesome. And you're not a veteran. I would say you're a champion. I love your last name. That is like the coolest last name.
Not bad, right?
And if it's
Both
fitting,
of them are.
it's fitting for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the
If you
time.
need anything, if you can't find out who got fired, I'm
No, I'm going to look it up because I think that's something I'll do as soon as we're done.
Go down that rabbit hole. Let me know.
I will. Have a great day. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Stay cool.